All right, so right here, we want to start fixing our pocket for our shirt. So the lining measurement is 13 inches by 13 inches. So it's a square cutting. Then bring one part of your shirt in this form and place it just as you have seen. Make sure you follow the guide I am giving in this illustration. Then start to stitch. Then your stitching will be after the folding. After that folding is where you stitch from, and then cut your threads just like this, and then also notch the lining part, cut the thread as well, and then trim off the excess lining underneath. So trim off the lining underneath. So this is how to fix your front pocket. And then after that, you also make sure you fold it backwards in this form, and then stitch quarter of an inch from this direction. So make sure that the stitching is as straight as possible. So stitch all through this way, and then cut your threads as well, and then you bring your pocket facing. Now the pocket facing could, okay, before the pocket facing rather, we are going to fold this down, or you can just stitch it down. Since we are using the salvage edge of the fabric to do this, so sew it down all through that way, cut off the threads, and then bring your pocket facing and place at the wrong side of the lining. Place it in this form. So place in this form where you now start folding the edge. Now this folding could be done with weaving or with iron. However, you can decide to weave the edges. The round the edges is still very much acceptable. Then fold gradually and go all through to this point. Fold all through this way and stitch to the very end. So after this now, you also repeat the same process on the other side, but we are going to finish this pocket first before we go through to the next stage. Cut your threads as well, and then bring the front short panel lining, turn it backwards this way, and start from down and stitch the pocketing. So this stitching could be done in a straight line or in a curvy line. So you stitch all around this way. So you can make this to be curvy. The curvy nature of this is going to help it notch in this form, and then trim the excesses all through this way. So after the trimming, then you tuck the lining inwards, just like this. Tuck it inwards. Make sure that the edges are properly brought out. Make sure they are properly brought out, and then you now top stitch. So the top stitching must be done at the tip. At the tip, it must be done at the tip all through this way. And after you have done this, you also cut off your threads in this form. Cut them as well in this form. And then you now place the short panel on top, just like this. And you top stitch here. Top stitch here very well. You cut your threads. Cut your threads. Cut your threads as well. Cut all threads as well. And then you top stitch the up area as well. Making sure you measure 2.5 inch. The 2.5 you're measuring is from the pocket edge in order to replace the notching you have done. Then stitch all through this way, and then this is what you have. At this point, you now trim the excesses Make sure it goes same length with the short length, right? And that is how you fix one of the pockets of your short. So I will do the next one, the second pocket, and then we continue with the sewing process as well. So trying to make sure that trimmings are corresponding, and then you are done with this. Let me do the second one. I will come back to show the results. So you bring one of the back panel, then you measure for the dart placement. You know, from the sideline is 5.5 inch. Then you make a notch there. Now the dart depth is 3.5. The dart depth is 3.5, while the dart leg is half an inch. So you make sure you hold the pieces together in this form, and then you put your dart. So the darting must be done perfectly. So measure 3.5 inches that way, and then you do your darting. So right there, you mark 3.5 inch in that way, and then do a dart leg of half an inch. The half an inch will be on the west region, right? So dart all through this way. Cut your threads, and also do the same darting effects on the other panel as well. Make sure that when you're putting your dart, you don't put the dart at the leg side, because it mostly happens in making shots. You tend to see your outfits having that at the leg. So 3.5 inch, mark in that form, and then you dart. You dart it all through that way. So cut your threads. Then, after which, I will go and iron and come back to continue. Here, the next I am doing here is to weave. Now, this weaving is a 3-thread industrial machine, but I changed the coil to a servo motor. Let me show you what I mean by servo motor. I have made a video on this before. So if in case you have this kind of machine, you can change the coil to this type of motor, right? It's called a servo motor. It is like a direct drive motor. It has less noise, uses lesser current. Look at the old coil I have for my machine. So I have changed it to this. So I bought this for 68,000 naira in a way. So this gives me the same service and even better effect than the regular coil machine. So by this weaving, it has turned this machine to a semi-industrial direct drive machine. So right there, you now weave all through the whole short panels, And after the weaving, we will now continue with our sewing. So the weaving is done, it's best done now that we are still on the still on the part by part before you go into the coupling. So it's better you weave now and then have easier coupling effects. All right, so now after you must have weaved it, then you match or correspond the panels together and then start from here to start joining. So this joining must be sewn from the sides and make sure that you cross-check the length of the shorts as you are stitching. And you have to hold the hem of the short and stitch it all right round, all right through. So the stitching allowance is half an inch, that's 0.5. Then you cut your threads as shown, and then join the other parts as well, making sure that the threads was cut properly. And then bring the second one as well, and then repeat the same joining all through that way. So corresponding this way, and then you sew. So making sure that everything here is corresponding nicely. So stitch to the very end. Stitch all this to the very end. Stitch to the very end. So stitch to the very end. After which you cut your threads, cut your threads as well. And then we bring the left panel of the trouser or the short rather, where you are going to fix your zip on. So bring the flap, match the flap up just as I have shown, and then stitch all through, stitch the flap all through this way. After you have sewn all through this way, you also cut your threads, and then bend the flap down, and then top stitch on the flap. Top stitch on the flap and not the body of the shorts. Top stitch on the flap. The top stitching will help you to flatten the flap joining allowance properly. Cut your threads just like this, and then bend it over this other way around, and this is how it looks like. And then cut the length of the flap to match with the length of the shorts. So after you have done this, you go and iron. Now in ironing, you make sure that every panel or every sewn line must be thoroughly ironed. Both the back darts, iron it out all through this way. And then you open press the short join allowance, open press that center joining, making sure that the open pressing is even, right? So this also helps to relax the jointed area to be smooth at the outside region. So iron out all through this way. And after you have ironed out in this form, now the next you also do is fold, iron out here as well. And then you fold this flap to come in this form. Fold the flap to come in this form, and then iron out all through that region. So iron out all through this region. So this is what the flap looks like from the outside. You iron the pocket area where you have stitched. Iron the pocket area properly. Iron it all through this way. So after this now, you also bring the other short, open press from here, open press from here, open press all through from here, open press all through from here, and this is what you have. So making sure that every area, every nook and cranny of this shirt is properly ironed. Iron out the dart area as well, and also iron the pocket points as well. So the ironing is very, very important when you are making male clothing. You must sew, you must iron, you must undergo these processes to achieve a perfect finishing. Here we have gotten the flap. The one you have to fold the flap into two first, and then you place your zip on top of it, just this way, and then you stitch all through to the very end. So once you stitch all to the very end, this is first thing you need to do, and then you can now cut off the excesses underneath, and then you bring the left panel, the right panel of the short rather, the right part of the short, and then place it this way, notch 7 inches for your zip. For your zip placement, 7 inches, and then bend it down in this form, and then you stitch from here. You stitch from here, and then double stitch at that point where the notching ended. Cut your threads, cut your threads. So this is what you have. So after this now, you are going to top stitch this edge. The top stitching is important because it helps to relax the panels properly as well. So top stitch to the very point where you have your notching points, and then after this, the next thing you will do right here is to attach the other flap, the other part of the trouser to this very point by just bringing them together in this form, and stitch the crotch point first, making sure that the panels are corresponding. The panels must correspond like this, and then you start from the crotch points to start sewing. So stitch properly and start from that crotch area, and make sure that you stitch all through to the very point where your notching stops. It's very important. Raise it up in this form, and then stitch to that very point where your notching stopped, and end it there. Then cut your threads, cut your threads. It's advisable that you double thread. The double threading helps to reinforce the short to be strong or stronger at that particular region, because that area used to have a little bit of tension when you wear the outfits. So once you have done with the stitching, and then this is how it looks like right from there, and then you try to match it up properly, and then you connect the zip. You stitch the zip, making sure that the both panels are equal width at that point. You cut your threads. You cut your threads. So after which, you see how it came out. Unzip your trouser or your shorts, and then start from there and stitch 1.3 or 1.2.3, depends on the person size, the size for your zip closure. That curvy lines that always appear on the shorts or trousers. So make sure that you stitch all through to the end of the hem point, and then double stitch from there. Then cut your threads. Cut your threads. So you zip back the short and then fold it inwards from this direction and make a 3/4 inch stitch, just to hold the flaps together. Cut your threads as well. So this is what you have. So we are done with the front panel fixing and the side panels. So the next you will see now will be on the bit loops, the positions and the marks of bit loops, in order to make you have a perfect knowledge of this. So from the center of the zip there, you reapply your customer's waist measurements to be sure of what you have. So the waist is at 8, so divided by 2, we have 19. So right there, you mark 19, and then apply 1.5 inch from there for the loop position. From the side joining, 2 inches backwards. From the front pocket, 2 inches or 2.5 inch inwards, depending on the customer's size. So do the same process on the other side as well, or you can simply hold it together and tap it. Now the tapping is to make sure that you have exact positions of the choking. So if you can still trace it out in this form. If your choking is not bold enough, you can trace them out all through in this form. And that's all we need to do. So let's now start fixing the band of our shorts, and then you understand how it's being done as well. Before the band, we are going to fold our loop. So you fold your loop double in this form and then stitch. Please make sure that this is straight enough and the same size. So fold your loop double in this form and stitch. Bear in mind, the loop is 1.5, right, in cutting, and the length is 24 or more than 24. But there are 6 loops on the trouser, so prepare your loops all through this way. And after this stitching now, I will cut them by 4 inches, and then I will go and iron all of them out before I start stitching on my short or trouser. So I will do this and come back to show you the results. We want to start the band fixing. Then you have already marked out the loops, the loop positions, and then you start from the back panel of the short. Bear in mind that you are doing a jointed band, so I'm using one part of the band now. So you have to insert these loops at the point where you have dropped your chocks. The chalk you dropped, this one now, is the 1.5 inch chalk you marked after getting the waist allowance. Then stitch all through that way. Also place your loop as well at that same point, and stitch all along this other edge. So don't forget to also place your loops underneath, because if you forget, you are going to redo them or lose it and sew it again. So stitch all through to this very point and stitch all through to the very end. So you cut out the excesses, you cut your threads, cut it out, and this is what you have. As you can see how smooth and beautiful this is looking. So fold it backwards in this form, and right there, you close the edge. The close of the edge will go in line with the front flap. That edge closing must go in line with the front flap, and then cut the excesses, trim off the points in this form, and then you tuck it in and use your scissors to bring it out in this form. So after this now, the next you do now will be to stitch the loops down by 0.5, but I will do the second band before I do this. So the reason I'm doing this right here is to make sure I get the exact point where my band will be placed. Because if you don't get it properly, you might end up having an unequal band. So marking out this area in this form is an indicator where this band was jointed. And use that same measurement and stitch the second band as well. So place in this form, and then you lap your band all through that way. Stitch all along. Make sure that this other band is pushed out by 1 inch or 1.5 for the band closure. And then run the loop, run the band, and then don't forget to insert your belt loops. So I will do this when I get to the end of the sewing. I will now show you the effect. So now we have gone to the end. Then we're also going to fold this as well. All right. So here, right here, you fold the band backwards again, to close the other end of the front panel. So making sure that you are taking bearing from the edge of the flap, then stitch it all along and lap it on the flap region, and that's all you need to do right there. And then you cut out the excesses and then trim it out, and then you tuck it out in this form and use your scissors to push the edge to come out properly. You have to go gently so you don't burst or tear off the edge. And this is what you see you have achieved. And before that, you are going to hold down the loops down by 1/2 inch. So hold the loops down by 1/2 inch. Now the essence of this stitching of the loop down is to make sure that the loop is big enough to enter the belt of your trouser, right? If you don't do this on your loops, your belt will not be able to enter. So stitch it down by 1/2 inch all through this way. Stitch all through to the very end. And then after which you go ahead to do the other side. I will do that and come back to show you guys the results before we proceed to the locking proper. So right there, we are done with the loop locking. So we are trying to now lock the waistline. So all you need to do now is to match the waistline to correspond accordingly and open up the allowances all through. So you have to also make sure that you have your chalk, and then you bring out the measurement that is applied on the chalk on the body of the outfit. So here on the fabric rather. So here you correspond the both waistlines. Don't allow any point to have any squeeze or whatsoever. So here you match the back waistline and then make sure that they are corresponding from the front. And then you start from here first and lock the down part of the band. Make sure that you give enough precautionary measures so that the both bands will tally. Then start from here first and lock the down area. So while you are locking the down area, it's now time you have to, reduce your hand. At the end of the stitching, it will be like 3/4 inch that you will have. So at this point, you might still apply your hip if you so wish, but if you still stitch in this form, it still gives you the same result or the same effect. So now you have to stitch here twice. The twice stitching is to reinforce the hip region so that it doesn't tear off at any slightest pressure. And then at this point, it's now when you now lock the total waist with the same measurement. Your hands must be straight as possible, and also make sure that the band is also corresponding. So you stitch all along this way. So once you're done with this now, the next you will now do will be to cut off your threads, and then I will show you the next thing to do. So right here, we are trying to lock the waistline. So you have to fold the inner fabric in a V-form shape first, the center back, just as I've seen me fold. So the back panel is what we start with first. Now this folding is to enable the band to relax. So once you have folded that back panel, so you can start from back panel to stitch, or you can make a temporary stitch of the back area, whichever one you want to do. So you now stitch and lock the band all through. So the reason for you to start from the center back is to make sure that the band does not shift or tilt. In most cases, it can shift if you don't handle it properly. It can shift. So right here, I am trying to, fold it, stitch it all through this way. So it goes all through in this direction. So you carefully do this and make sure that everything is properly tucked in. And this is how it is. So this is stitching to the very end. So after this now, the next you also do is to lock the other end of the band as well. And you achieve a neat finishing. These processes I am showing you is just a trick you can use to achieve a perfect result on your short sewing. So don't forget to like this video. It means a lot. Give it a thumbs up, drop your comments, ask your questions, and also share. Invite your friends to join us on this platform so you can learn the easiest way to make and sew a very nice shirt for yourself, for your client, for your husband, for your children. And then you will achieve it or have it as a skill. So the next I will do now is to show you guys how to fix or lock the last edge of the loops. And that is what I'm trying to do right here. So right here, you fold, you stitch from here. You stitch from here, making sure that everything is nicely done. So stitch at the tip of it all. And then you sew all through this direction. So making sure it's, you fold the loop as you can see how I folded it. So fold from here and make sure you double stitch at each loop. And then you also fold the other one as well. Fold it this way. And then you stitch, double stitch at each loop. This is how you are going to fold all the loops, and the loop parts will be over. So you will now start with your lap application and the folding of the top of the shirt rather. So I will do this and show you the results at the end of the day. Yeah. We have our crotch area, our lap to mark. So you make sure that the both crotch points are corresponding, just this way. And after which, you will now hold the leg area and then use half an inch to lock, or you can still apply your measurements if you so wish. Now the knee we wanted to have was 21 knee or thereabout. So you apply your knee and then lock. But in my shorts, I just use half an inch to lock all the lap region. Reason is because shorts is a very much freer outfit than the trouser. You don't need to apply the knee, the lap, all those stuffs anymore. As long as you increase the measurements in drafting, just use half an inch to lock, making sure that everything is arranged. So this will be the end of the video. Thanks for watching, guys. The last we will do now will be to hem, and then you're through the short. Let's see you guys on the next one. Bye bye for now.